Hi, I'm Mark, Golf 1 Delta X-Ray, and joining us at the ML&S weekly video is David.
Hello everybody. Good to be back.
Introduce you. What's your call sign again?
Call sign David M0TPT is the call sign. Yeah.
So David, apart from our stunning good looks, the fact we're both motorcyclists,
We are.
the fact we both lurk on the 305 net on occasions,
Indeedy.
and we come from Hertfordshire.
Yes.
What else do we have in common?
I think the biggest thing we have in common is the 101D or MP.
In your case, yeah.
Flagship Yaesu radio. Is it still relevant in 2024? I suppose is the question that we're going to try to answer today. Certainly my favourite radio of the bunch, and I've had one for many years now. What about yourself?
Yeah, likewise. I bought mine. In fact, when they first came out, I always remind Tony that I paid the full price for it, and this was before I worked here. So I had one of the very first ones, and it's been an absolutely amazing radio. I don't use it enough, but it's interesting. Every time I switch it on and come back to it, I'm always blown away by the small things like the audio quality and strangely enough, the Bandscope.
Yeah.
Now you think, but one thing I like about the 101, the fidelity on the Bandscope, I can tell the different types of interference by the kind of noise on my Bandscope.
100%. I think for me, one of the other things within the hobby, obviously it's a fantastic radio. It's great on TX, it's great on RX. But it's also ticks the box for me about when you're sitting in front of a radio, maybe for long periods or maybe just for an hour of an evening, is being able to drive a radio like this. It takes quite a bit of room up on your shack desk, and it's absolutely beautiful to drive. But one important thing though that I realised once I owned one was the fact that once you've set the menu, because it is menu driven in the first instance.
Yeah.
But once you've set it, you have everything on the front that you need. So you don't have to go into the menus, you don't have to do anything, everything is on the front.
Yeah, good
so
point.
From your band selection to your, right at the bottom here, you've got your notch, your contours, your bandwidth, and that beautiful DNR, obviously, as we know, this is a hybrid radio. So you've got the double super heterodyne doing the heavy lifting there, and then the SDR function doing all of the refining.
Yeah, and also not everyone realises, but the way Yaesu's designed it, there's in fact several SDRs. There's the SDR for the Bandscope, and there's also the SDR that you're listening to
at the time.
In fact, when you're looking at the band trace, you can always tell the very centre of the display is slightly a different colour, and that's the bit you're hearing.
Yeah.
The rest of it is just pictorial.
Yeah, 100%, and that's down to the selectivity of the radio itself. The great thing is obviously you've got two receivers in one. You've got VFO-A, VFO-B, which are totally separate, and
identical.
And identical,
which is a good thing. For some radios, they're not.
They're not. Yeah. So it's 100% a duplicate, and it's easily identifiable because VFO-B is in blue. So any blue writing on the front of the radio relates to VFO-B, and then obviously the white relates to VFO-A. So.
I always wondered what all those colours were.
Yeah,
it's very pretty.
So that's the difference. Even when you're selecting bands, it will tell you. So you have white along the bottom and blue across the top, so you know where each one is. Because obviously working split, I'm sure you've worked split before.
Occasionally.
It makes it such a dream having two VFOs, which is another great bonus of having a radio with two VFOs. The DNR, as we said, is to die for. But this thing has one special trick up its sleeve.
VC tune.
VC tune.
It is very, very effective, that VC tune.
It is, and sometimes you can actually hear it working, so you can hear the little variable capacitor in there doing its thing. I personally use it 40 meters, for instance, into G, and you're getting a little bit of QSB. So the band's fading a little bit, and you can use that to kind of steady the QSO that you have in, or the station you're trying to bring in.
But it's that design. I mean, one thing, just to remind ourselves, I think this is typical for many SDRs, is that it digitizes at least 10 megs of the bandwidth all at the same time. And the issue with that is if you have a noisy big signal somewhere on that 10 megs, it desensitizes the radio. So the great thing about the 101, because you've not only got the super het in front of it keeping out the rubbish and just feeding the good stuff through, you've got the bandpass filters, that roofing filters, which are real physical things, plus the VC tune, which is yet another pre-selector, which is almost as narrow as a magnetic loop can be. And then it goes into the SDR, and that's why it sounds so good and it's so sensitive.
And it does. And the audio that you get out of it, even on a very noisy band, is quite easy to eliminate a good 50-60% of what's going on. But very well laid out, a beautiful TFT screen, which you can set up in various ways. You can expand the waterfall if you wanted to. You can show both the waterfall for VFOA, VFOB.
Yep.
We've got the main dial in the middle, and you've also got the outer ring, which you can assign different tasks to. Yep. So you'll press and hold the CS, and then you'll be able to select from a list on what it does. And as I said, everything is on the front. Everything is easy access. If you're in a competition, that's the sort of thing that you need to do.
This button here, though, David, for me, this is
the DNR.
The DNF.
Oh, DNF.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
So
okay.
the DNF.
Yeah.
So this for me is a black magic button. So when you know how polite us hams are sometimes. We're having a nice conversation. Someone else wants to join in, so they decide to tune up their aerial.
We've all
right
experienced
on your
that.
frequency,
Yeah.
and then all you hear is this whistling. That DNF button, I absolutely have no idea how it works, but if you press that, it automatically notches out the carrier.
It looks for the heterodyne.
I just think it's amazing.
It is.
I don't know. I'm sure you can maybe do that on other radios, but not just by pressing a button. You just press the button
and it drops
it's
away.
gone. And it's just magic. For me, that is black magic.
And one of the things that I really liked and really helped me understand how a notch worked, because we didn't all download all of the information as a ham radio once we passed. We had to do some learning. And you can see here, if Mark presses the notch button, because it's on your side, this is one of the things that I absolutely love. There we go. And right here, you can see it's put a little V in our band pass. That's the notch actually working. And if you twist that notch knob, which is that one there.
The inner one. The inner one.
The inner one, there you go. That's the one when, as Mark says, sometimes it happens when you get someone parked right up on top of you, and you get that beautiful noise over whoever it is you're listening to, talking to, having a QSO with. That's the one that can really make the difference. That will notch out the right-hand side of that bandpass and hopefully make things a little bit clearer. But it's easy, quick things like that that make this radio absolutely a wonder and a joy to be able to operate. What are your most favourite bits, Mark? What are they?
I like the fact, I like modern stuff. And I like, as you know, I did a review on the Anan, which I think is amazing. It's a lovely thing. But the experience of using Anan isn't the same as using what I call a radio rig. When you come to a 101, sure, it's all SDR technology, all clever stuff, but it's a radio. It looks like a radio. It turns on within a few moments. It boots, it's a radio.
Yeah.
It's not a computer, it's a radio.
100%.
And I like the fact that it's a hybrid as well, because I don't know why, just little things that amuse me. But for instance, you can open up, I'm going to go in from the top, you can open up the roofing filter to say 12 kilohertz. So now we've got huge, far too wide for SSB, but because it's an SDR, you can use the SDR bit to pinch it down. And that's what I just think, this thing's amazing. It sounds good just on the SDR roof, the digital roofing, it's not roofing, the digital bandwidth control, and then you can add on the actual physical roofing filter, and I always think, no wonder why this thing sounds so good, because it's, talk about throw the kitchen sink at it. That's what they've done. They've thrown everything they know about radio into the radio and hope for the best, and lo and behold, it's #1 on the Sherwood Roof.
Which is why, for me, it's still super relevant in 2024.
And it's still top dog.
Yeah.
As Callum would say, the ex-commander, hello Callum, it's still top banana.
It is top banana.
It's still top banana.
Talking about bananas, where the bananas come in, we have got 2 antenna sockets on the back. There is 3, because one you can also use as a receive. I know Callum likes his loop on the ground, so it certainly gives you the facility to be able to do that. And there's a myriad of connections on the back of the 101 MP that you can, and the 101D, that you can utilise for lots of external things. I know people that are using Station Master, for instance, or any login software, will certainly be happy that there's a USB connector on the back, so you can connect up your favourite login software. But really, it just really has everything. And obviously, we all want to sound very good on the radio.
Yep.
We've got the parametrics inside pretty much all of the Yaesu radios.
Is it worth telling the viewers why they've used the word parametric and not bass treble and bass mid and treble?
Yeah, so it allows you to boost or decrease.
Yeah.
The chosen frequency. So you choose the frequency that you want to excite or you want to suppress, and then you can tell it to boost it and how wide it's going to affect.
Exactly.
But for newbies, that might be a wee bit too much, right? I know for me, I was like, whoa.
Yes,
what was going on?
The bottom line is, like you said, you're not told what they consider treble or mid or bass. You've got 3 basically selections, and you can widen them, narrow them, and move them around.
And select the frequency that you're going to manipulate.
So on SSB, especially on SSB, you can get your microphone, whatever it is, sounding good.
Yeah.
The fist mic can sound amazing.
Well, the AC fist mics are good on all of the radios, I have to say.
Yeah.
They're very, very punchy. But the basic setup, obviously you've got your processor and you've got your RF gain up here. Once you push it, the little light comes on. That tells you using the processor. But with the parametrics, if you go into the function menu, you want, TX audio, you'll see 2. You'll see the parametric EQs. And if you go all the way to the bottom, you'll start seeing these P parametrics. Now, the difference between these is the top ones. They're the ones that are used when you don't have any compression on or
That's right, yeah.
processor.
That's it. Yeah.
Whereas the P parametrics, they only work when you have the EQ on and you've set your processor. So a good friend of mine, Mike Zero DCX Darren, if you want to see the settings that will give you a beautiful starting point, have a look at his QRZ page. Mike Zero DCX Darren, you've probably heard him on the bands. He's always on 40 meters, absolutely cracking station. He has put and done the work and put rough settings up for the DX10 and the 101, and that will give you a fantastic starting point.
Yep.
And I think if you're a little bit confused over parametrics, P parametrics, then that will certainly give you a starting point. I've used them for probably about a year now, and thank Darren for the fact that he published them, because they certainly improved my audio a lot.
The other thing I like about the Yaesus is, this might be from my dark past using power mics, but I get frustrated on some radios where, I don't know, it's 200 watts, whatever, and you talk into the mic and the meter flicks up to 50 watts and you think, what's going on? So you whack the microphone gain up and you start shouting in the mic, whatever, but you're distorting, so that's no good. What I really like about the Yaesu processor stroke speech compressor is that if you set it right, it's very easy in a normal tone of voice and without any distortion and sounding really great on air to talk yourself up. If it's a 100 watt rig, it will go up to 80 watts no problem,
Yeah.
and you're not distorting. And I really like that on Yaesus. Most of the Yaesus have got really effective speech compressors. And actually on that point, being a sad chap, I've also got a Daytong RF clipper. Some of you might know what clippers are. They are the full-on compressor. I actually back-to-back that with my 101. I used the Daytong into it and the onboard compressor.
Yeah.
And the compressor on the Yaesu was better than the RF clipper. It was better at getting your average torque power up, and it was clearer. The RF clipper sounded harsh. So I know it's a small thing, but you know, if you don't have a speech compressor on,
Yeah.
on an SSB radio, you can be the same loudness at the other
Yeah.
end with a 100-watt radio that's compressed properly, or a kilowatt
Yeah.
one without a compressor.
And that's another trick up the 101D and MP sleeve, AMC. Automatic mic control.
Yeah, or modulation, whatever it is.
Yeah, and also the last letters of the club that I belong to, the Golf 8 AMC, which is
okay.
quite weird. But AMC, you know, that protecting you so you're not over modulating.
More
So
for FM, that, isn't it?
it works on SSB as well. So if you've got your you know, your mic gains running a little bit hot, it will help keep that if you've got it set correctly. And again, Mike 0 DCX, that's all detailed on his QRZ page. But another trick up the 101 sleeve.
Now, so we keep talking about the D and the MP. Is it worth clarifying to folks? Because it actually, you know, when I first worked here, people go, "What, an extra grand for 100 watts? That's way. Oh, I could get a linear for that." Which is true, you can or could, but there's more to it than that.
Yeah, there is. I mean, obviously, the biggest difference is the 200 watts, but there's lots of other subtle differences. So we mentioned the VC tune earlier on. That only works on VFOA on the D, and on the MP it's on both channels. So if you've got a loop on the ground, or you're listening to one and transmitting on the other one, then that's quite handy to have. It's also got additional roofing filters.
Yes, that's right. The MP has got an additional 300 hertz CW filter on the main. You can fit these, by the way, as options on the D, but these are standard on the MP.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other one is this speaker has a built-in power supply. So this particular one, which is the MP, will plug straight in the wall. No power supply needed. It's got everything you need out of the box, plug it in, and away you go. And
the reason for that is that the MP uses a 50-volt power onto the finals, whereas the D is only 13.8. They do that to keep the distortion down. So that's why it comes with a speaker power supply.
And it's very traditional for Yaesu to produce an MP. They've done it in the past.
Yes, it's in homage of the call sign of the owner.
Yeah, absolutely.
So one thing that we'd give you a steer is that if you take a D model and you upgrade it to near an MP, i.e. you add the 300 hertz roofing filter, you add the VC tune on the sub receiver, you buy yourself a speaker and also buy yourself a power supply, you're within spitting distance of buying an MP. And when you sell an MP, it's an MP. It's just like with cars, isn't it? It's the same thing.
It is, and it depends how you're going to operate.
Yeah.
For me, getting the 200 was what I wanted, because sometimes I go up and I'll play radio for 30 minutes. So if I'm going up and playing radio for 30 minutes, I'm not going to turn my amplifier on, because by the time it warms up, you know, I'm halfway through a QSO. So whereas what I found was that 200 watts is more than enough most of the time. I like running my linear. It's part of the hobby and I enjoy it a lot. And now we've got the new limits. It's very enjoyable.
And for those of you that are stressing your finals, are running it at 50 watts on the D, which you know with FT8. Sorry, I'm talking about the digital mode operators. If you're running FT8, you know that you should really turn the power down to a quarter. With the 200 watt one, you've still got a 50 watts of FT8.
Potentially you've still got 50 watts. I mean, rule of thumb, stick to your, on digital modes, especially FT8, stick to your AM rated power, I think is a good rule of thumb. That's certainly what I've seemed to have read and done myself, and because I like a little bit of FT8, especially in the old club competitions. But yeah, it really is the flagship radio for Yaesu. Absolutely unbelievable, and it's a beautiful thing to
just
drive.
again, well, you know, we don't, you know, we're hams, we've got loads of money supposedly, but something that I think is worth pointing out, because, you know, not something for something. I genuinely believe that Yaesu not only have designed something that's technically very clever, but they've really tried to do it on a cost engineering basis, because it's not, let's face it, I don't think it's an expensive radio. It's one of the lower cost flagships.
It is. I mean, this is a second-hand one. I think this is the MP, so it's 3399. I can't remember whether we've got any Ds, but you know, second-hand, it's a lot of radio for the money.
I think so, and it's you know, there are more lush control interfaces, but this is still extremely good. It's a very pleasing thing. You know, the buttons it's nice quality.
Well, as I keep on saying, half the joy is driving a radio. Is sitting there and pulling in the weak signals and deploying all of the toys that you do get in a flagship radio, and it has them all.
So yeah, I mean, it's still top banana. Both of our personal ones, it's not going anywhere. And when I turn it on, it's always a pleasure, and it always delivers. So what else can you want from a rig, really?
Good times.
So enough talking about it. How about we show everyone how how effective the digital noise reduction?
Indeedy. Let's see if we can find somebody. Although the great thing is,
so. He's not talking at the moment, but you'll have to. He might come back on. I'm now going to turn on the noise reduction. Ready?
Yes, QSL Fox 4 and Whiskey Echo Charlie. Good afternoon, John. You're good 5x9 also. And he was before in.
Now turn it off, Mark.
Well, let's wait for him to stop talking so we can get the silence, because they might think we're jockeying the volume control.
A little bit of QSB.
Now we'll turn it off.
And you can hear that hash come back almost.
It's really hard to hear.
It is night and day.
It's just amazing. I just find. It's not.
It is
it's just stunning. It's stunning.
And we've got 18 dB of attenuation on there as well, just to help.
Actually, that's something we didn't talk about, though, is the sensitivity of this thing.
Yeah.
I often have the attenuator on at home.
Yeah. I mean, I'm lucky. I don't get that much noise at home. But it's every day's a school day, so Mark's taught me about using the attenuation and applying that and the DNR and getting even better results. So we're on a long wire here. Is it the long wire or are we on the beam?
We're on the 20-meter beam.
We're on the 20-meter beam, so it's, you know, it's going to be pretty good anyway. But with the DNR, it's
stunning.
So much difference. So much difference.
We're going to have a little play on the Bandscope now, maybe.
Yeah. Go for it.
Now. We might have to do some magic here, because I'd like the Bandscope set up in a certain way. Show me how you like it set up, because
I sometimes it just really depends. You know, obviously the Yaesus nowadays have the 3D waterfall, which some people don't particularly like. The way I would set it up is basically go into the reference or the level, and then just turn it down so you can just see, for want of a better word, the grass growing. Once you can see that, and then you can identify your signals across. So I really like the 3D display.
Yeah, but David, can you actually find signals using the 3D display?
Yeah, you can. Yeah,
okay.
100%.
I can't. I've never managed to suss it out.
Yeah, well, the idea behind a 3D display is to give you a little bit of history. So obviously it's the same idea as the waterfall, but it's going backwards, so you get a wee bit more history with it. But yeah, you 100% you can find signals. You can see, I think there's somebody down there on.
I'll be honest, I use the 2D display myself. It's normal waterfall. But it's a nice option.
It is,
and it's pretty. And
here we go.
And actually, no,
we're heading to the same place.
No, well, also, actually, Henry pointed this out. We didn't mention about the external monitor. if you plug, it's got a standard DVI. If you plug a nice big monitor on it, and then you put on the 3D display, it's groovy.
It's quite impressive.
It's very groovy.
Yeah,
very groovy.
you can select your colours through the function menu, and yeah, you can end up with a very, very pretty display. And that's the thing, you can really tailor this to your needs. So whatever you like, you know, if you are you know, not fully sighted, then being able to put radios up nowadays on a big monitor is a massive plus.
Yes, and you've got a mouse. You can plug your mouse in here, so you can mouse it as well.
You can control it using the mouse.
For me, I like most of my screen real estate to be waterfall. For some people, they want most of it to be meters, dials and digits. It's
changing the span so you can see the entire band that you're working, or just seeing a small section of it, and then when you're searching and pouncing, you can. And
one little thing, it's a little techie point for the lovies, but one of the criticisms that was raised on the waterfall on this display is it doesn't have averaging. Now, I have never looked at my display and gone, oh my God, it doesn't have averaging.
I did.
Oh, did you? Well, the good news is, if you really are bothered about that, which I'm not, but the remote control software, if you use the remote control software and look at this remotely, that does have an averaging function on it.
It does.
So you can do it that way.
I came from the 7610.
And as
we know, ICOM has averaging. So it took a little while to get used to, but it's like anything, you get used to it. And you mentioned another good point there. We could go for hours. Being able to remote this lovely radio from anywhere, if you're on holiday. Not that you would, but some people do. But if you're on holiday, you know, being able to set this up for remote operation is pretty easy, pretty straightforward. So I'm sure Henry will be linking in the bit of kit that allows you to do that. It's very, very clever and very unique. So yeah, I think we've covered most things. I can't think of anything else, but it's a lot of radio.
Any questions? Either give us a call or come in,
or put some comments if you got anything specific, or come in, like Mark says, come in for a coffee, a cup of tea. And if you like what we're doing, then give it a thumbs up. And we're going to be doing some more videos together. So if you hit that subscribe and the bell, then that'll notify you the next time we're on, or anybody's on. Even Tony might be doing a video soon. So who knows? But thank you for spending some time with us today to just look at this flagship radio for 2024. So from ML&S TPT 73 and
G1DX 73 as well.
All the best.